Republican Speaker Mike Johnson has, of course, been working around the clock for many months now to prevent the release of any and all files related to Jeffrey Epstein because Trump doesn't want any of that released for fairly obvious reasons. You know, it's his best buddy. But Mike Johnson can no longer fight it. Mike Johnson no longer has the numbers to keep those Epstein files hidden any longer. Thanks to a recent slew of Democratic victories in special elections, including one this week with Adelita Grijalva, the Democrats now have the numbers. And of course, several Republican defectors who include, by the way, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, and Nancy Mace. Very, very weird for them to do this, but they now have the votes. And they can force the release of these Epstein files. So here is why this matters. Obviously, earlier in this month, the Democrats and the Republican defectors tried to force a vote on a discharge petition because Mike Johnson refuses to bring the legislation to the floor. So in order to force it on the floor by bypassing Johnson and the House rules, you file a discharge petition. If a majority of people vote in favor of that, or if you get the 218 number is what it is, then the regular legislation, which is to release the full Epstein files, would come to a floor vote. Democrats didn't have the numbers. And in the beginning of September, they knew that. And they thought, okay, well, we've got special elections coming up. We're favored in those elections. So if we win those two, which they did, we'll have the numbers. Boom, we can make it happen. They now have the numbers. They now have the members. Once Grijalva is, of course, sworn in, Congress is off this week, so it's going to be a bit. But it doesn't mean we're going to get it immediately, okay? Don't expect this to come out next Monday. Here's what happens. Once the discharge petition is, in fact, brought to the floor, and it is voted upon, and it passes, then, according to the House rules, which is kind of dumb, but whatever, you have to wait 7 days before you can bring the legislation that the discharge petition was forcing. So, little weird. I don't quite understand that, right? If you pass the discharge petition with the people saying, we want to vote on this, then why can't it just happen? But, okay, you got to wait 7 days. So, honestly, folks, we are probably looking at something more like mid-October before we finally get the final vote on this Epstein files piece of legislation. Johnson, however, is going to have a couple options, and they're all horrible and very transparent. Most importantly, he could obviously just adjourn. He say, nope, we're done. We're not here. We're not going to do anything. No votes, no nothing, which he really can't do, because if he does that, let's not forget Congress has to pass a continuing resolution or we're about to hit a government shutdown. So if he adjourns to avoid a discharge petition or a legislative vote, that means we're not going to get a budget and we will go to a government shutdown, which of course will tell the voters Republicans would rather shut down the government than release the Epstein files. And that is going to cost a lot of people their seats in next year's midterms, possibly including Johnson himself. So I guess the ball is in your court, Mike Johnson. Whatever you want to do, go ahead and do it. But just remember, the whole country's watching. A majority of Americans already believe that Trump is covering up something very sinister in there. So I'd tread lightly here. You're finally outnumbered. Maybe it's time for you to just step back and let it happen. Thanks for watching, everyone. You know, we're inching closer and closer to 1 million subscribers, and we're aiming to hit that goal before the year closes. So if you aren't subscribed to the channel, please do so, and don't forget to like, comment, and share. Thanks for joining us as we head towards this huge milestone.